Welcome back. Today we are talking about one of my favorites. It's Esther. Who else is a favorite of Esther? Like a fan of Esther? Her story in the Old Testament has always fascinated me. And the more that I've looked at it lately, the more I think like there's a lot that we can learn from her and how even our stories compare today. First of all, does anybody know who Esther was? She was an Israelite, right? And she was living in Babylon. She's not even living in her home country. So that's essentially like you and I who are born in America going to live in Europe or something like that. The other thing we can learn about Esther is that she was being raised by Mordecai, who is her uncle, not her mom and dad. So at some point in her story, she lost her mom and dad. So we don't know, we don't have that part of her story, but when we're introduced to her, she is living with an uncle, not even an aunt. So this is like a single uncle who has stepped up to take care of his niece. Go Mordecai, like that's a big deal. They are living in Babylon when something crazy happens. The king of Babylon essentially fires the queen and kicks her out. I guess today you would say it was divorce or whatever, but he was like, it's time for you to go. And Esther is, we heard in her stories, she's a beautiful young woman, and she gets chosen to be a part of the queen search. And so Esther is in the midst of a lot of chaos and a lot of confusion. Feel like that in your own life? Feel like there's a lot of chaos and a lot of confusion going on? So was Esther, feeling the same. So next week we're going to tackle what I'm calling is the world's biggest beauty pageant. And so we're going to talk about this big thing. But today I want us to see that chaos and confusion that Esther felt and we might be feeling right now. What do we do with that? If you read through Esther, you'll see there's a line that's used a lot: for such a time as this. But that for such a time as this, the building blocks were laid before that time. She had to go through all of this other stuff before she made it to the palace. And we're gonna see all those steps, but even like the history that we don't know, she still had to go through that. And today, as students, when you're going through chaos, you're going through confusion, you're going back to school and it's uncomfortable and you haven't done that, all of these things are building what God is going to be doing later in your life. It's just for the moment. Like your high school, your middle school is only a tiny, tiny fragment of what God is going to do in your life. Like in a time span of 80 years, like 6 years is not even 10%. Like you have so much more that you're going to live. So I want to encourage you not to stress about even your grades. Like just this year is so much confusion. And your teachers, like people know that. So give yourself grace to live in that moment. But also look at what God is doing and how he is building your the groundwork for what you're going to do later in life. We don't know. Like I have no idea what he's going to do next, but it's exciting. And I wanted to encourage you today in that moment, like when it can be overwhelming and when like all these things kind of are crashing in, to remember that God is at work. He is working in your life, in the lives of the people around you, and his plan will happen regardless. So there's no need to fear the chaos and the confusion or what might happen, because we know God has it completely, and we as humans can't mess that up. And so no matter what Esther did, she couldn't mess up the plan. No matter what I do, I can't mess up the plan, because God is sovereign. You know, he can make it happen. God's got this. And he's got you. And be encouraged at what he's doing. And you're going to see those things later in life. I just firmly believe that your generation is being prepared for something really cool. And don't waste this time right now. Have a great rest of your day. If you have questions about Esther that you're curious about, leave them below, and I'll try to hit those as we work through Esther and talk about Esther. And we'll be back next week to talk about the same thing. of Esther and the rest of her story. And if you like my YouTube, I would be forever grateful to you because I'm trying to grow my followers. So tell your friends.